Now what? So I do share screen then. Share screen. So
there's your thing right there. Now you go up here
oh,
and there should be a little thing where you can make it small. People are already joining.
Andrea. Where's Andrea? Oh, Andrea. Hi, Andrea. I don't know where she is.
She's joining. Where's the little? Usually you can make it smaller. As people come on, it'll get
It's
smaller.
smaller.
There.
Okay. Oh, thanks,
But
honey.
but then you have to. You also have to get. I don't know if you can do that. I don't know how to do that. PowerPoints and all that.
I have to be able to do that though.
I know.
So I have to do this. So I need to go on. Wait. I'm going to go back into Blackboard.
You want this light on, right?
That light?
Yeah, otherwise you're not gonna. I mean, I don't think you're gonna be able to see very well.
I can see fine. All right, just leave it. Maybe this light would be nicer.
That
Turn
light's
it.
terrible.
I like that light.
Having it on, it shines right on the computer, honey.
You can move the thing around though. It can be like that. And then you don't have to have it all the way.
No, you can't do that.
Like that. Just like that. Can you turn the big light off, please? Just like that is fine.
I don't think you're gonna be able to do like where they can see you and do all your stuff too. I don't know. I'm not an expert at. And I'm gonna shut the door because I can hear you talking in here.
Okay. Oh yeah, we should probably talk about our. All right, go ahead.
You're gonna be able to do it. You're good.
Yeah.
That glass is not on that thing all the way. I hope you can do it. I don't know. I'll take the recycle one down. If you can't do it, just go back to what you were doing.
No, I think it's fine, honey. It's good, I think. Let's see. Can you guys click? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you click your like video camera? There you are.
Wait
Right.
1 second. I am having trouble again.
Oh, I know. I think that there's about 4,000 people or 4 million people on. Can you hear?
Me, headphones on, and I
Come in
can't.
and out a little bit. Okay, let's see. I know Mary's here. Andrea is here. Isn't Andrea here? Jamie is here. Matthew Williams is here. Let's see who else is here. Cassandra. Alexis. Hi, Amy.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Looking for me?
What?
Were you looking for me?
No,
You came outside.
I know. I was just calling to say hi. I'm going back in the office.
Oh, is everything
Yeah, it's good. Thanks.
all right?
Thank you. Okay, let's see. We still have some time, I think, right? We said 7:30. How are you guys doing? I love that color on you, Saida. Your burqa?
Scarf.
Or
Thank you.
welcome. So how come some people are not, I don't know what's going on here. Oh, these are all these people here and I can't see their pictures. Okay.
Professor,
Yes.
I accidentally emailed you because I was trying to use the old link to see if it would work, but I ended up finding it. So please disregard my email.
Okay. You found it? Okay. It worked out. I mean, this is all like really news to us. Hi, Andrea.
Hi. How are you?
Good. Okay, so wait, let me get all you guys. Arlene, Andrea. It's right there. Isabella is here, right?
Yeah.
I don't see Isabella though. Is she over here? And is Mary, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, you can?
Yep.
Oh, I can't see you then. Okay. Jamie's there, right? Jamie?
I'm here.
Okay. Gabriella is here. Taryn is here. Hi, Taryn. How's everything at home?
It's okay, I guess.
It's a rough time. I know. Is everybody freaking out? It's just really crazy. How are you guys doing with your, how many of you are still working?
No, I'm not.
You're all, nobody has to do distance learning or anything?
We're doing resources since I'm out of classroom, but the classroom teachers are doing virtual learning for our kids.
The classroom teachers are?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been out since March 10th because we had a teacher in the district that was diagnosed with the coronavirus early on.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, feels like it's been forever.
I know, it's terrible. It's just unbelievable. I just hope that they figure this out and get everybody back on track. I think that they should give everyone that hydrochloroquine stuff for anti-malaria because it seems to be working and
Yeah.
prevents people from getting it, or if they get it, then it's a lot less problematic. But my husband was a Marine and he had to go to the Philippines and they gave him that and it didn't do anything. There was like 0 side effects. So I was like, just give us all some of that stuff and then we'll be good to go and go back to work. That would be so nice.
My husband still go to the city for work.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And it's like he can't even do it. He took a week off last week, but he can't take any more days off. And it's freaky because like I know a lot of people who actually got laid off, so he's scared. He doesn't want to not go.
Oh yeah, because you get laid off. I know it's really terrible. My daughter and her fiance live in Washington Heights, but they relocated for the time being to Montauk. So they're hanging out in Montauk. So.
It's out in Montauk too.
Who is?
The virus.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, my parents live out there, and it's out there.
Uh-oh. Where is it out there? Who's got it out there?
Beats me. Everybody got it.
Yeah. No, I think, but they're in, like, they're at Rough Riders, and so they're, just home all the time, and they go bike riding or they play tennis or something. So they're not really interacting with anybody. They have enough food for like 2 months. Where's Alexis, where's Alexis? Kosakovich is there.
Here.
Where's the other Alexis?
I'm here. Alexa or?
Yeah, Alexa is here. I know there's so many people with like Alexa, Alexis. There's two Alexis.
Alexis Costa is here.
I know that. I got you. We're Alexis Aries, and where's Sarah Gallo? Is she here? And Joshua Gerstein. I know they still have a few minutes, right? So
I think not a lot of people know that they have to go to Blackboard and then go to tools from like our course and then go all the way down to each session because each ID is different. So it would help if you maybe emailed us a link because I'm actually like,
email you guys a link though.
that link was invalid.
That was invalid?
Yeah, that's why
I got on using the link just now.
I didn't get on using the link. Harveen texted me and told me how to get on.
Yeah, the link was invalid for a few of us.
All right, so I'm gonna have to I don't know. Then I'll have to figure that out because next week I'm having a guest speaker who's going to be. I have the PowerPoint for the individual, and then he's going to do the talk. So we need to make sure that you guys all get on. Yeah, that's so weird. This whole thing is very weird. Okay, wait, who's Kat? Kat must be, let's see. Catherine Lamore, is that you, Kat? Kat? Sarah Stevens. I have Michael Zaharios. I have. Is Amanda Sager on?
Here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Is Courtney on? I don't see Courtney yet. Hi. So how are you guys all managing?
It's terrible. Quarantined at home.
Very bored.
Yes, it's very boring. Like I go take my dogs out for a walk, but that's like literally about it. It's very depressing. I feel very unproductive. Yes.
Well, hopefully
It's like the total opposite for me. It's like I feel like I have less hours in the day now.
because
Because I have to teach my daughter now, and then I wake up in the morning, wake her up, give her breakfast, and then start teaching her. It takes like 3.5, 4 hours with my little one, trying to throw all the color pencils everywhere. It's ridiculous. And then these classes, and then I have like 3 essays due in like 2 weeks.
I feel like professors are throwing a lot more work on us because they think that like we just have all this ample time now that we're home, but it's like they don't understand that some of us actually go to work and like just.
I know you do. You do. I'm going to give you time too at the end of class to do an assignment, so you don't have to be stressed out about it. So I don't know what happened with the exam because I have it and I know I checked it. And my true falses were correct, so I don't know if it's something that's because I did it on an Excel document, so I don't know if when it translated into the Blackboard that it got messed up. But I gave everybody 12 points. Did it do that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions though about the midterm? Other than that, the true false questions all seem to be messed up and like opposite of what they were supposed to be. I don't know why that happened because it was really weird because I'm glad you all emailed me and let me know about that. I see Chris Amy is here. So I'm glad that you emailed me and let me know right away. Oh, there's Kristen Heppel. Okay. Is Quinn here? I don't see Quinn yet.
Professor, did you get me? It's Catherine. I'm here.
Catherine, yeah, I got you.
Okay,
You're
good.
Kat, right?
Yep.
Yep, I got you. Okay, I think I got Sarah Gallo. Do I have Sarah Gallo checked off? I think so. Is Samantha here? It's so weird. Maybe people, I don't know, people are having trouble. That's really weird that it was I just, there's a way that you can just copy the invitation and email it. So I have no idea why it would be invalid. I have no idea, but I'll try again to just do it next week before the meeting so that everyone has an updated one. Holly is here, Saeed is here, Matthew Mills is here.
At 7:30.
What was that?
We'll always be meeting at 7:30.
I think so. I mean, there's no option for, so it's either 7 or 7:30. There's no 7,
Okay.
but I'll come on.
Because I thought it said invalid because I was clicking on it and it said 4:30. So originally I thought the session was at
But
4:30.
here's probably the other one. I undid that one and sent out a new one. So I think what you have to do is I'll resend it. How's that for next week?
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just resend it. I have to send it to our guest speaker anyway. So I'll send it to everybody and then I'll include him on it. Is Alexis Arias not on? Is Quinn on? I don't see Quinn. And who else? Nicholas, are you on? I don't know where these people are. Courtney is now on. Got Courtney. Okay, Courtney. Is Leanne on? I don't see Leanne. Is Leanne on? I don't see her. Okay, I guess we'll start. Does anybody have any questions about the midterm other than that mess of the true false questions? There were some other questions. Did anybody want to get anything clarified? No? Everybody's good? Okay. So I want to go through this, and I post this at the bottom of your it's at the bottom of your Blackboard. So did anybody see this on the bottom of the Blackboard?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to give you time at the end of class to work on this, or maybe in the middle, and then we'll come back to it or something. So in the book, Managing Classroom Behavior, 5th edition, in the first couple of chapters, there are some questions that I wanted you to answer. So I just posted them yesterday. I don't expect that you would have them now. I will give you time at the end of class because I know you're all really working very hard. So you could either do them at the end of class or you could do them on your own time. But I just want to go through the questions and see if anybody has any questions about these questions that I want you to respond to. Make sure that when you respond to them, you put your name on it, and then you can email them to me at any time during the week that you have a chance. So
I emailed it to you already. I did it earlier today. But just to clarify, the questions are from chapters 1 and 2, right? Because it didn't exactly clarify.
yeah, I think I put it somewhere else. I think it's in the syllabus actually.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's from chapters 1 and 2. So just to get some background on, identifying what issues are for background information of students. So Andrea, what did you figure out about why is it important to analyze background information, including the student's previous educational history?
Let me pull up my answers. Hang on. So what I wrote down is that it's important to find out as much information as you can about students before school starts, because finding out about your students is important to effectively run a classroom. You can look at students' cumulative folder, psychological folder, and ask parents. It's important to look for patterns of behavior that may affect school achievement. Finding this information can help you determine if the academic or social programs that the child is enrolled in are appropriate, or if it needs to be revised for the coming school year. Pre-planning can help motivate the student and can help your year with the child go smoothly.
That was very thorough. Great. So you can also, depending upon the age of the student and where the student was last year, check in with their previous teachers or even check in with some of their current teachers and see kind of, what's going on if there's some issue with the student in your class. Did anybody else do the questions already? Or, I mean, this is not.
Yeah, I had finished them also.
Who is this talking?
Matt.
So, you want to tell us about number 2? And like everybody else can finish them, but anyway, we're working on this. So can you read number 2 and then answer it, please, Matt?
Yeah, just let me pull it up.
Okay, is this Matt Mills or Matt?
Yep, Matt Mills.
Okay.
Wait, I have a question. So
Is anybody in the graduate program graduating this May?
Yes,
Yes.
Who is?
Matt Mills.
Who else?
Taryn.
Taryn, you're graduating too?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that it? And what about you, Saida? Did you say you were going to graduate?
I have student teaching next semester, so I'm graduating.
Oh,
Fall.
fall. Okay. Okay. Great. Okay, Matt, go ahead.
Well, it also relates, that question relates directly to question number 1 also, with first checking with school staff who's have experience with the student, being familiar with their IEP academic level. And then I also, for like a personal response, wrote down like the steps that are included in addressing any behavioral issues. So I wrote the first step is resolving behavioral issues that a teacher may experience in classrooms, identifying the maladaptive behavior. The next step is conducting a functional behavioral assessment. And then I include the caveat that given that most teachers are not a board certified behavior analyst, this process will be entirely informal unless a BCBA is available in the district to assist, or if a school psychologist can assist. After conducting an FBA, a behavior intervention plan is created. The behavior intervention plan is then implemented in order to reinforce more adaptive behaviors. Parental consent also needs to be gained prior to all of this occurring if it is formal. If it's not formal, again, the teacher can just do this by herself. But again, always having the support and assistance of a BCBA in the district or a school psychologist helps.
Okay, good. And of course, an FBA is considered another type of evaluation. So as Matt said, you do have to have parental consent to conduct a formal FBA. If you want to just do some different interventions in your classroom, like good classroom management, which we're going to talk about tonight, then you don't have to do a big, request. But some students are having so many problem behaviors that they do require a real formal FBA or behavior intervention plan.
I also had a question regarding that specifically. So I've seen a lot of teachers who, like, when I enter the class to, like, as a consultant and stuff like that, to do an FBA or create a BIP, and they have like a token board or a token economy system already in place, an individualized token board, so it's not whole class. Is that allowed to be done, considering that's not something that's formally written on their IEP and the next year's teacher wouldn't be familiar with that? I know that a discussion would need to be had between the two teachers of that student already, and given that the child may be having some maladaptive behaviors present in the classroom. But I wanted to know from like almost like a legal standpoint, if they can have those how informal can it really be if they're creating an individualized token economy system for a student?
I think a token economy is pretty minimal. I mean,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's just an individual, especially if the child has an IEP. Is it
okay? Yeah,
has an IEP already?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I've also seen it done with students who don't have an IEP and are just in general education and and may have some disruptive behaviors that the teachers will then make like an informal little behavior plan for the kid. And I wanted to know, like, at what point then, if they're doing these informal programs, does it become formal? I guess it's kind of really when the BCBA steps in, right?
Well, I think if this teacher is just doing some simple intervention to try to remediate problem behaviors, you're not necessarily going to have a BCBA come in. You're not necessarily going to call a meeting and have parental consent.
Yeah.
However, if you're targeting serious problem, like I don't know what the issues are for the child with the token system.
I was just talking in generality, like when I see it.
In general, it's like the kids calling out in class. You're certainly not going to do an FBA and a behavior plan for kids.
Yeah.
You could do a little token system, and it's not that big of a deal. I think once it becomes very intrusive in terms of any interventions that really need a lot of, I'm asked to do FBAs for school districts that don't have a BCBA doing any part of a FBA or behavior intervention plan. and they have strategies in place, but they're not working. So they still,
Yeah.
you know, but they're implementing them. And when they don't work and that kid's problem behavior gets worse, that's when you have to call in someone else, and that's when you have to get parental consent.
Okay. That makes sense.
Do that. So, and then when you're doing data collection and you're graphing, you know, all of that stuff, I think that at that point in time, it gets a lot more involved and you really need to have parental consent. But just a little classroom intervention, I think, to try to remediate a problem is, I think it's pretty mild and is not necessarily illegal to do that. Anyway, in actuality, teachers are exempt from having any real additional qualifications, special education teachers inclusive. So even though in New York State there's this whole licensed behavior analyst credential, teachers who work in a school system are exempt from having that qualification. So they're supposed to be considered, you know, already able to implement those types of
Really, I was not aware of that. I did not know that at all.
no, public school teachers do not need to have their LBAs at all. Neither do school psychologists or anybody. You know, they are.
But they can't do like an FBA or BIP though, right?
They can do that. Yeah, they do. They do it all the time. School psychologists, social workers, they do.
And they don't need to have a BCBA or an LBA.
Nope.
I did not know that.
Nope, they don't need it. So, yeah, they don't need it. But you know, there are people who are more, you know, have more expertise in the area. Of course, I've met a gazillion people who do have their LBAs and their BCBAs who are horrible. But so just because you have it doesn't mean that you have really great experience and training. But you know, and the BCBA also, by their own presentation of standards, states on there that this is only demonstrating minimal competency. So it doesn't mean that you're an expert in anything. It just means you're minimally competent. So it's really kind of scary. It is what it is. I just want to is Samantha Lanik in class? I didn't see her name on here. Or how about Samantha? So that's Samantha and Leanne. Is Leanne Noskowitz here? Maybe they'll come in later, or maybe they're. Does anybody have an objection if this is recorded and I share it with anybody who might be absent?
No.
Anybody? If you have an objection, you could either send me a little, whatever you call it, the little chat thing or something, or you can email me later on. You don't even have to tell me now. If you have an objection, just let me know, okay? Because I'm supposed to check with you guys to make sure if you have any objections, and then I won't be able to share the recording. I think it just automatically records. I haven't saved any of them up to this point in time, but I haven't needed to. But at any rate, I just wanted to check and see. Okay, so did anybody else? I wasn't expecting that you were going to have these questions answered already, but we will talk about them next week. So are you guys getting the idea of what I really want you to think about? So number 3 is consequences that might result from your plan, and what you need to consider before implementing the plan of action. It's all in your book. I just want to make sure you're reading the book. So there's 6 little questions, and you don't have to make them extensive responses, but you should definitely respond to them. Okay, so I'm going to move this down here. So next week we are having an adult individual with Down syndrome who's going to present his own PowerPoint to class, and he is one of the most like he's just absolutely incredible, and I think you're all going to love him. Julie knows him already because he talked to our class last year, but he's really, really an amazing, amazing young man. So, okay. I don't know what I just did with that. I just got rid of it, but I have to go back to it. It's up here. And then I have I have a presentation that I wanted to work on tonight and have something funny to show you guys too. So I did post also, I think it's at the top of your PowerPoints, just some information. So it's nothing that you have to do or anything. It is just additional information. Oh wait, that's the same thing. Sorry, it gets a little crazy. All right, I'm gonna have to go into Blackboard. Sorry, I had it there and then I accidentally closed it out. So let me just go back into Blackboard and pop that up again because there was something I wanted you to see. What is going on here? Oh no, come on. All right. Now I don't know why I can't get into Blackboard. Sorry, I'm sorry for the delay. Okay, so I put this at the top, new posted, additional information for your reference. So a teacher's guide to differentiating instruction. It's pretty straightforward. Adapting instruction, and then a special education field advisory memo about least restrictive environment. So it's just information for you to have. And then, where are these things going? This get me really aggravated. Oh, here, is this it? No. I don't know where everything is going over here. Oh my God, this is so aggravating. I have no idea why I can't pull it up.
What is it that you're trying to pull up?
What I just had up, that somehow it's just not letting me pull it up again. Here, this one right here. Oh, it's going into here. Okay, I got it. This. All right. So those are your questions. So now here's what I want you to do, and we're going to do this at the end of class. We'll talk about it now. Identify. So read the following case studies. The first is a link. The rest are attached. Identify the student's name, age, classification, if any. Identify and describe the interfering behaviors, and identify the solutions. So we will get back to that later, but I'm going to give you time, as I said, in class to do that. So don't worry about that right now. I do want to do the PowerPoint right now. Okay, so let me get back over to here. Okay, so I did a PowerPoint on the Don't Shoot the Dog book. So some of you might think that, I'm just moving this here and this over to here. So some of you might think that behavior analysis and classroom management strategies are really related to kind of dog training. So coincidentally, where I live, there's a beautiful Rockefeller State Park Preserve. It's a huge area and there's 26 miles of trails. And so I see this woman walking her dog on the trail. And the dog decides that he's going to sit down on the trail and he's not going to get up. And so the woman comes over and pats the dog on the head and gives him a kiss, and then she gives him a treat. And then he does get up, but after about 5 or 6 steps, he sits down again. So what was the problem with what the woman did with the dog? What do you think she did?
She rewarded a negative behavior.
Very good. Who said that?
Sarah Stevens.
Oh, Sarah, great. Exactly. That's perfect. Sarah's right. The woman rewarded an inappropriate behavior. So that's not what you want to do. So so we talking about, who we train, who we kind of, teach and train, and everything that you're going to do in your classroom. And if any of you have children, I know at least one of you has children. I don't know if anybody else has any kids, but it does take behavior management strategies to have children and to be able to effectively teach your kids about structure and discipline and doing their homework and getting things done at home and in the family and also in school. So we do train humans and we do train animals, and it is based on behavioral science. So here's a question. Is reinforcement a bribe? Who has an idea? Anybody have an idea? What do you think? Who wants to answer? Anybody?
I can answer.
Go ahead.
I don't think so. I mean,
Right. It's not a
more like a reward. It's not
Well, okay, so reinforcement is a reward. A bribe is not the same thing. Does anybody know why a bribe is not the same thing? Like, think about what is a bribe.
If you do this, then you get this.
Well, yeah, that is a contingent relationship, and that is something that we do to
like
get
a temporary
reinforcement.
fix?
But what happens when is the bribe? What happens with an actual bribe? Bribe is usually the actual word bribe is usually associated with an illegal action, like you're going to hire somebody to commit some kind of a crime, and usually you have to pay them about half the money up front, and then you pay them the other half the money after they commit the crime. So it's really
Just talk about bribes.
usually related to an illegal act. It's not necessarily something that's copacetic, right? Whereas reinforcement happens when? It says it right here. Who wants to read the sentence? This is it right here.
Even that occurs upon completion of a behavior.
Okay, so reinforcement happens after the behavior occurs. And this is what happens as a result of that, the event that occurs upon the completion of behavior. And Alexa blank, could you read, please?
Increases the likelihood for that behavior to occur in the future.
Good, excellent. Okay, and so could you continue to, please, Alexa?
Can be positive added or negative withdrawn.
Okay, good. So we can have positive reinforcement or we could have negative reinforcement. So if it's positive reinforcement, then that's pretty easy, right? We all know what that is, right? You get the right answer. Somebody gives you, a grade, a good grade, or whatever it is. What can anybody think of an example of a negative reinforcement?
Sometimes negative reinforcement is like a child who doesn't want to do work and they are exhibiting behaviors starting to act up. You ask them to just get through maybe 5 of the 10 questions and then you take the work away. So the negative reinforcement is taking something they don't want to do away, but because they've done some of it, they did achieve something.
Okay, that's good. And here's another really basic example. So when you're in Manhattan or you're in someplace in the city and you have to put money in the muni meter, so you actually are, the negative thing is that you're withdrawing money out of your pocket or your credit card to put in the meter. And the reinforcement is that you're not going to get a ticket. So you get away with not having a ticket. So that is negative. Getting a ticket is punishment, but avoiding getting a ticket is positive. It's negative reinforcement because you're losing money, but the positive thing is you're not getting a ticket. And they, I think SeaWorld, like before that whole incident with the, what was it, the killer shark or something, the killer whale that drowned somebody. But they still do a lot of that. They do a lot of work with the animals at SeaWorld. So they use a lot of behavior reinforcement and behavior strategies at SeaWorld. So let's see. Kristen, could you read about a positive reinforcer?
Sure.
Thank you.
You can increase any behavior by reinforcing it when it occurs. Basic principle. Research has shown that the most effective way to reduce problem behavior in children is to strengthen desirable behavior through positive reinforcement rather than trying to weaken undesirable behavior using adverse or negative processes.
Okay, good. So what is that, in summation, what is that quote telling us?
You're reinforcing like desirable behavior. So like if they're doing something that you really like, you're going to reinforce that behavior to continue occurring.
Right. Okay. And rather than trying to weaken undesirable behavior using aversive process or punishment of some sort. So when you were, just think about when you guys were in school, which wasn't that long ago, like in, high school or elementary school or something. And think about some examples of teacher classroom management where either they did do this or they did not do this. So what do you think they do more? Who has an idea?
I think they do more on the negative, like they focus more on the negative than the positive reinforcement.
Right. They scold kids a lot, right? What are some of the other things that they do that's negative reinforcement for
Like
kids?
detention, right? Or
They what?
ISS, like detention or like ISS or like.
Yeah, right, exactly. Detention, suspension,
Isn't that punishment, not negative reinforcement?
well, for the kid, it's probably reinforcement because he doesn't want to be in school anyway.
Okay.
So that does end up reinforcing. And for the teacher, it's negative reinforcement because she got the kid out of the classroom. So her problem solved. So something's removed and now she's happy because I don't have to deal with that kid anymore. So it could actually, for the kid, it's actually probably positive reinforcement. For the teacher, it's negative reinforcement. Because I don't think that a lot of these kids want punishment at all. They just want to be, they don't want to be in the classroom. And that's one of the reasons why they're acting out in the classroom. And there are other reasons for it that really need to be looked at. So have any of you had, or currently, I know you're not in school right now, are able to remember an example of a student in your classroom and how was that issue, a student who's having a problem behavior of some sort, whatever it might be, and you can tell us what it is, and then how was that handled in the classroom? Does anybody have any example? Nobody? No
I have a negative example.
Okay.
So in one of the schools that I observed in, there was this one student. He was disruptive, not all the time, but most of the time. And the teacher ended up, the first time I saw, she ended up screaming at him and said that I'm going to write your mom a letter. And then she sat down on the computer there and then and started typing the letter. And then the next day, the poor kid didn't even do anything and there was disruption and she just started screaming at him and then wrote the letter again, and that made the kid really mad. And she would just stop the lesson and start writing the letter to the mom right there.
That's really so inappropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband teaches in, well, he's a social worker in a public school in Mount Vernon. And there was a kid who had a problem behavior in the classroom and said something negative to his teacher. And in the next class, like the dean of students, it's a high school, the dean of students and the teacher come into the classroom in front of all the kids and start screaming at this kid in the classroom. There are a lot of teachers that do not approach problem behaviors in the classroom in an effective way. And it just gets worse. And the kids hate the teacher. They never want to be in the class. They end up not wanting to do their work. It's certainly not something that's going to encourage them to have, good outcomes. So I think it's really important that, as you're going to be the examples to a lot of people when you're in school teaching and you're the special ed teacher, to try to help people understand what is going to work better. So it might be you that's going to be helping another teacher to have better classroom management by your modeling and by your support. So you are the expert. You are going to be the expert as the special ed teacher. You're considered the expert in how to teach and manage the kids in your class, and helpful in other classes as well. So let's just talk about what are reinforcers. So Harveen, would you read, please? How come you guys are not there anymore? I don't see your pictures anymore.
What are reinforcers?
Yeah.
Reinforcers are relative, not absolute. What you find reinforcing, someone else may find aversive. Positive reinforcers added with result increase in target behavior. Negative reinforcers removed with result decrease in target behavior.
Okay, good. So that's pretty self-explanatory, right? So what are punishers? Let's see. Michael, could you read, please?
So what are punishers? What happens when a specific behavior results in the loss of something desirable or delivery of something undesirable? Does not result in predictable behaviors.
Okay, so this is an important thing to remember, is that reinforcement does result in more predictability in terms of the future occurrence of behaviors, but punishment doesn't. So it could be a variable and unpredictable, what happens. Like sometimes the kid will behave well and sometimes he won't. So it's an unpredictable intervention. So punishment doesn't work as well as reinforcement. So that's a big takeaway from this. Andrea, would you read, please?
So what about reinforcement? Reinforce immediately after the occurrence of the desired behavior. Avoid reinforcing too early. Example, gorilla in the doorway. The magnitude needs to match the effort to emit the desired behavior. Conditioned clicker whistle versus unconditioned. Positive thumbs up versus aversive no. Continuous versus intermittent unpredictable.
Okay, so let's talk about some of that. So I forgot what the example was of the gorilla in the doorway. I'm gonna have to go back and reread that and let you know about that. But so this is really important. The first one is you can't give a reinforcer 20 minutes later. So it's really important that you reinforce immediately after the occurrence of the behavior. Don't reinforce before the student has completed the entire response. The magnitude. So let's say that the student writes a 5-paragraph thesis or essay about some particular topic, and you just say, "Oh, that's nice," and not really be very supportive or very reinforcing about the child or the individual. Or a student who has a lot of difficulty writing, for example, and he expends all this effort and finishes writing an entire page of math examples or something, and math is a very difficult subject and he has trouble writing. That's when you really want to give a lot more reinforcement rather than just some little tiny thing or even ignoring it. A lot of times, and I think this would be interesting for you, unfortunately nobody's in school right now, and it's really kind of crappy that we can't check these things out, because this would have been important to take some data on, or at least to kind of pay attention to it. Is how many teachers actually provide praise to kids when they answer correctly? Does anybody have an idea what that might be?
Like a percentage?
Yeah, I mean, do you think that they reinforce children every time they have a correct answer, or sometimes, or what do they do?
It's more common at the lower levels. I work in a middle school, so I'm used to like the middle school, high school setting where they don't.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like in the elementary level, it's more common.
It might be, and sometimes it's not. A lot of times teachers will attend more to those behaviors that are interfering rather than the behaviors that are appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's better if you switch it around too. But I think high school kids like to get, praise too.
I agree. I think it's more common in the elementary schools, but from observation hours, I have seen, it depends on the teacher. Some teachers are much more willing to give positive reinforcement, where others will lean more towards like the negative behavior.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And it's, and again, the behavior that you pay attention to is the behavior that's going to increase. So they should be doing the exact opposite, but a lot of people don't. So it's just something that I think is really important to cover in this class, because you are inclusion. So you're in an inclusion class. Now you're in an inclusion setting. You're going to have gen ed kids in there. You're going to have special ed kids in there. If that's the type of placement that you're in, you may have to be modeling these appropriate interventions for the general education teacher who may not have had any background in how to better manage classrooms and student behaviors. So it's really important that you have a lot of this, this information under your, in your toolbox when you get into school. So what's the difference between a conditioned reinforcer and an unconditioned reinforcer? Who knows that? Rachel, do you want to take a guess?
Well, it says condition is clicker and whistle.
Okay. Can you think of something else that might be conditioned as well?
Like a token board?
Yeah, right, a token board. Perfect, great. Or even just a praise statement for a kid where you're giving him positive praise. And what about unconditioned?
I guess when it's not like every time, like frequently.
Okay. So unconditioned, what's something that's not conditioned? So it's not something that we have to.
Food.
What was that?
Food.
Food is unconditioned. Good. Food, sleep.
Money.
Well, money is conditioned. That's like a token.
Okay.
But we like money because it gets conditioned. But when you're born, when you're 2, you may not really pay too much attention to money. But so unconditioned are the things that are really basic for us, food, water, sleep, whatever. And so everything else is really conditioned, and it gets conditioned by pairing it with something that's positive. So token boards are great. How many of you do use token boards already?
I do.
Who is that? I like it better.
I also do.
Token board.
Okay, so a few people. So Amanda does. And let's see who else. Who else responded? Who else is token board?
I do. Rachel.
Rachel. Okay, Rachel. Good. So all right. So then we have positive reinforcement. Thumbs up. Aversive is no. Yelling, something that is really not a nice thing to do. And then continuous versus intermittent. So, and then it says unpredictable. So continuous reinforcement is what? Do you have an idea, Quinn?
What was the question again? Continuous?
What is continuous reinforcement?
Continuous is like when it's happening on a regular basis.
Right. So continuous is like every time the student has a correct response, for example. So every time Susie, you call in Susie and she answers correctly, you're going to give her some kind of positive praise statement or a sticker or a token or a class dojo point or something. Intermittent is the opposite, or not the opposite, but intermittent is sometimes, right? So who can tell me what's something that is an intermittent schedule of reinforcement that maintains behavior? Can anybody think of an example of what might be intermittent reinforcement? Matt, can you think of something? Matt Mills?
Was that Mills?
Yeah,
Matt.
Matt Mills.
Oh, yeah. Intermittent would be like every third, right?
Okay. Or variable every third. So
yeah, so like for three compliant behaviors, and
Mhm.
then a token will be provided.
Okay. And so a really good example for just practical and everyday real life is slot machines in Atlantic City or Las Vegas are a perfect example of intermittent schedule reinforcement. So what behavior do slot machines maintain?
Adding more money to the machine.
Pulling the lever.
Yeah, exactly. Putting more money in, pressing the lever. They just keep putting, and what is the payoff? What happens? Not very often, but sometimes.
You win.
Yeah, exactly. All this money comes pouring out. So that intermittent schedule reinforcement maintains a lot of people putting a lot of money in the slot machine. So that's a really big distinction about reinforcement. So these are some other things that are important as a teacher, especially a special ed teacher, to consider. And this is about shaping, or also known as successive approximation. So Holly, could you read first, please?
Shaping, aka successive approximation, initially reinforce those behaviors that are approaching the desired behavior, raise expectations in small increments that are achievable, train only one aspect at a time. If one procedure is not working, try another. Do you know the definition of insanity? If the behavior regresses, return to a previous successful level. End session on a high note.
Okay. So what is the definition of insanity?
Trying the same thing over and over and expecting the same result.
Expecting a different result.
Different
right?
result, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So if something's not working, then you got to change it, right? That's basically the whole thing. But I mean, basically this whole thing is that, sometimes we have really high expectations for kids and they are not able to achieve those expectations. And so it's really important that we kind of tone down our expectations a little bit. And then if they do a little part of what it is that we're expecting, then that's what we would reinforce. And then, of course, increasing what those expectations are over time. So, and then if it gets too hard, you might have to go backwards a little bit, but you definitely want to just keep working on keeping kids moving in the upward direction. Or does anybody use this and didn't know what it was called? Nobody? No? Okay. So shaping shortcuts. So here's what we want to do most of all. Joshua, could you read, please?
Hey, hi. Teach students to model your positive behaviors. Use gestures rather than words at times if possible.
Okay. Because if kids get a lot of directions over the course of a day, so it's probably important if you could figure out other ways of kind of cueing them, even if you go stand next to them at their desk or something. So your approximation of you being near them oftentimes might positively change some problem behaviors. So Nicholas, did you read already, Nicholas? I don't think so, right?
No, I didn't.
Could you read, please?
Yeah. So stimulus control, cues, i.e. phone ring, traffic light, your name called, reinforce response to cue, limited hold, figure out the normal time it takes for student to respond, only provide reinforcement for behaviors that occur within that time, may result in discipline.
Yeah, or like self-discipline. So let's go back to cues. So yeah, your phone rings, you pick it up, right? The traffic light turns red, you stop. Somebody calls your name, you turn in their direction. So those are things in the environment that happen all the time. So many things happen in the classroom that you're possibly not even in tune with, that when you get back in the classroom, maybe this year, before the end of the year, I hope, that you would be able to, to be able to be a little bit more in tune with all of the different things that go on in the classroom that are different cues in the classroom. And then if you do give a kid a cue and then they respond, you definitely want to reinforce that if it's an appropriate response, of course. Limited hold is kind of interesting because like that probably happens. It happened when you took your midterm too, is that you had to finish your exam within 2.5 hours. So if you didn't finish your exam within 2.5 hours, then you weren't going to be able to submit it. So that would be considered a limited hold. And one of the examples that I did, refer to when I was going through this book again was that if somebody calls you to dinner, let's say your mom calls you to dinner and you don't come within 15 or 20 minutes, then everyone starts eating and then you're kind of left out of the whole meal time. So just considering that you want people to actually respond to coming to dinner and or whatever, whatever it is that you're looking toward, but that there's a certain amount of time that you're expecting that the response be either begun or completed. So there's a whole book called Coercion and Its Fallout that was written by this man called Murray Sidman. And so we do have a lot of coercion in our world, right? So who can give me some examples of what we call coercion in our environment? What are some coercive practices that we have? Anybody? You probably experience, maybe you don't experience them, but maybe you do things so that you can avoid coercion. And that's what kids do. They actually want to avoid coercion in school. So nobody has any ideas? No?
I think one way is that teachers will sometimes say, like, if you are misbehaving, I'll call your parents or I'll contact your parents as like a form of punishment for them.
Yes, Julia, perfect. Exactly. That's one. We have coercion even when we're driving, right? Like if you're speeding, if you're going over a certain mileage, you might get pulled over by a policeman and get a ticket. So there's a lot of coercion that goes on in the world, I think. So giving that as an example, can anybody think of any other examples? So that was a good example, Julia, is threatening kids in school. Sometimes teachers threaten to throw kids out of the classroom. And, but most of the time we think of punishment as what? So here we have punishment. So,
Julia, threaten to take their recess away.
Take what?
Recess away.
Yeah, recess. Take a recess away. That's
like something that they want to do.
Exactly. So could you read this one, please, Alexis?
Instead of punishment, coercion, use negative reinforcement. Withdraw a preferred activity or event. Why punishment does not result in teaching appropriate alternative desired behavior.
Okay, so instead of the coercion or the punishment, so instead of throwing the kid out of the classroom or something, which might be what they want, right? And maybe they don't care if you're going to call their mother. It depends on the student, of course. So it's all relative, but you want to try to think of different strategies to use rather than punishment. So withdrawing a preferred activity or event. I'm sure you guys have a lot of examples of people that think that they're punishing kids and in actuality they're reinforcing them. Can anybody think of an example? You guys are not full of examples tonight. Maybe it's because you've been out of school for so long.
Maybe like throwing the kid out, like you were saying, but like that gives them the attention that they want. So it's kind of like not really doing what it should be doing.
Exactly. So you're not going to get the outcome or the result. So what will happen? So you have a kid in your class, Holly, right? And you have made him leave the classroom, and now he's out in the hallway. And what happens when he's out in the hallway?
He's getting time off. He's taking a break. He's goofing off, probably playing with kids that are walking by. So he's really getting what he wants.
Correct. Exactly. So that was not withdrawing a preferred activity or event. He actually got reinforced. He was positively reinforced. So it's really surprising, though. I know not all of you have a lot of experience as teachers, but I think you should think back to when you were in school, because you're all young people and you probably have experiences during that time where you have observed the negative results. So the child is getting positively reinforced. So what is going to happen, Holly, in the future?
He's going to do it again. He's going to do it probably for something he doesn't want to learn about or care about. So he'll probably selectively do it again.
Probably, exactly. So it's not going to fix it. It's not going to get any better. So Alexis talked about withdrawing recess. So that's a really good thing to do. You could even have kids work for extra recess time, and that's pretty motivating.
I have one.
Yes, Rachel.
Like there's this one kid that I had to watch in the class, and it was called like readers theater. So you had to read a play, kind of, and he was so misbehaved. But I guess like his negative reinforcement was like if he wasn't going to read the script, he had to work on math problems.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So they were using, something that was, I guess, the alternative to reading the play, which he didn't want to do. It was actually having him choose between two unpreferred activities, right? In that case?
Yeah. Right.
He didn't want to do one, so using a worse desired activity to get him to do something that he really didn't want to do, but it was less undesirable than doing a bunch of math. So that was a good one. Anybody else?
We actually have a gym teacher who, when they don't pay attention, like listen in gym, the kids walk around the building because like they love gym. So when they don't pay attention, that's like.
So they're not allowed to be in gym?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have to walk around the building.
And that's not what they want to do. They want to be in gym.
Yeah, they love it. They all love gym.
Yeah, most kids do love gym. Some kids don't, but most kids do really love gym. So that's great. So that's, and it's like one of the things, I mean, I don't know if you can always do this, but sometimes you can arrange it with the gym teacher. So I want you to think a little bit more creatively when you're the teacher in charge, is that maybe if you have a student who you're having some difficulty getting to do work, you might set up a system where he does, like, again, going back to that, a successive approximation, aka shaping, that he has to do, instead of doing 20 examples, he might only do 5 or 10, and then he gets to get an extra 10 minutes in the gym or something like that. So just using just small bits of reinforcement to try to get kids to do things you want, rather than thinking about, a lot of times teachers go straight to punishment. So I just want you to think about alternatives. So what to do instead of using punishment. So Julia, could you read, please?
What to do instead: redirect and reinforcer. Reinforce the students who are behaving appropriately. Use group contingencies. Reinforce the absence of the behavior targeted for decrease. Change the magnitude of the reinforcer. Increase your rate of reinforcement for desired behaviors.
Okay, so let's see. So you want to redirect, you want to reinforce the kid for, like, so he's doing something inappropriate. So you're going to tell him, Johnny, you need to whatever. And then he does it, and then you have to reinforce him right away. That's a pretty easy fix if it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. But the second one, can you give me an example of the second one, reinforce the students who are behaving appropriately? Who has an example?
So like if you have a group of students and you see someone actually doing what they're supposed to, you reinforce that. So like, I like the way you're paying attention, or I like the way that you're sitting nicely and focused. So that reinforces other students to kind of follow that.
Right. Does anybody use Class Dojo?
What is that?
I use Class Dojo.
Who is that talking?
Josh.
Josh. Tell us about Class Dojo, Josh.
Pretty much every kid gets an account, and you could send them a code to their parents and they can log in online, or there's an app, and pretty much you could give kids points, dojo points. It could be for whatever you want to do. And the parents could see how many points their child has, and you can message on it. It's like a great enforcer for me. I've been using it for a couple of years now, and kids love it, and the family's always like checking in and seeing how their kids are doing in class.
Great. So if you have a student who's not doing the right thing, but you have a whole bunch of students who are, then what might you do, Josh?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
If you have a student or a couple of students who are not making good choices, not doing the right thing, but most of your class is doing the right thing, what might you do using Class Dojo? I mean, each kid has an account, right? So are you going to give points to all the kids, or who would you give points to? Did I lose you? This thing keeps going in and out.
So like if you're giving these students points, right? How do you like, is there like a tangible reinforcer involved with these points?
Usually. I don't know what Josh is, or I don't know what happened to Josh if he was coming in and out. So it's on the smart board, and they all have their little meme or something, and they have their name. And so it doesn't take a lot of time. And then they get points, and then maybe, the student has the most points, or if they get a total of a certain amount of points, like whoever, maybe students who have over 35 points get.
My stepdaughter uses it, and the teacher will, you can like select certain students to get points. So like all the students' names will be up on the screen, and you click on whichever kids are earning points, and then the teacher might have like maybe a no homework pass if you get a certain amount of points, or like there's like a list of things they can choose from. I think one of them might be like lunch with a teacher or something like that.
Exactly. Perfect.
Yeah.
So a whole bunch of things, like whatever you can poll your students and find what they want to work for, like extra recess time, or whatever. There's a whole bunch of things that you can, it depends on the age of the students, of course.
A lot of the fourth grade teachers do like homework passes and stuff like that, since homework gets more intensive as the grades go up.
Right. So, and they use Class Dojo?
Yeah, both my fourth grade co-teachers use Class Dojo.
And are you seeing that it's been successful?
Yeah, it's pretty successful in both their classes. They almost always have the icons up on the screen, as long as they're not using the smartboard for something else. The teachers can control it from their cell phone, so they can give points in the hallway for students who are walking appropriately. And I see it across all age grades in my elementary school. The kindergarten teachers walk around, and you hear their buzzers going off, giving points to students, and then they'll let the kid know that they got a point because they did this, and then it works as a vicarious reinforcement for other students to do the right thing because they want their points also.
Correct, exactly. So that's great, Andrea. So that is exactly, it's very behavior analytic, and it's very reinforcing, and it does work. So when you start giving goodies to the students who are making good choices and ignoring the students who are not, you will see that that has a really positive effect, right, Andrea? That's what you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so the kids come around because they want to get the points too. They want to get a home ec. So you have to make it reinforcing. So again, like if we look down to this one, change the magnitude of the reinforcer. If you're just going to give them like, an extra minute on the playground, it's probably not going to work. If you're going to give them an extra 10 minutes on the playground, it might work. If you're going to tell them they can do one less math problem than the other kids, it might not work. But if you're going to tell them that they can do only 2 out of 20 examples of math problems, then it might work, or not do any math problems. It may very well work. So you also have to, though, keep track of the kids who are having trouble in different subject areas and make sure that they're practicing enough of what they need to practice. So what about the group contingencies? What are some group contingencies that you can use in school? What does that seem like you might be able to do?
Is that like where if everyone finishes their their classwork, we can all have an extra 5 minutes of recess?
Yes, good. Exactly. That's a really good example. Sometimes teachers set up teams in the classroom, and one team works against the other team. So, there's a lot of pressure then in those cases, like that. So the peers put pressure on other peers to step up to the plate and do the right thing and make good choices. So you have to just, be careful about that stuff, because sometimes kids get, they're the scapegoat or something. So you don't want that to happen. But has anybody seen another example? So that was a great example, Sarah, of a group contingency. Any other ones?
I'll do it in my E&L standalone. I'll say if you do your 5 pages of writing, then everyone gets an extra sticker. And I have all my students have a folder for E&L in the classroom, and I have a 10 frame on them. And whenever they get 10 stickers, they'll get a prize out of the prize box. So I'll either reinforce with extra stickers for the day, or they'll get 5 minutes of free time with the puppets and something like that. But everyone has to achieve it. So then everyone's focused and everyone's like, oh no, shush, stop talking, let's get our stickers.
And isn't that better than you having to do that all the time?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really does work. So these are a lot of things that, maybe some other people haven't considered that actually are very effective in the classroom. And then we have the absence of the behavior targeted for decrease. So if you want the students to be working quietly, you're going to reinforce them for working quietly. And, we always try to phrase things more in positive terms rather than negative terms. So instead of saying, don't run in the hall, you might say, you need to walk in the hallway. Or instead of, don't make noise when you're doing your math work, you have to say, okay, everybody needs to be quiet during math work, and then reinforce the kids for working quietly. So you want to try to be very positive in the way that you're presenting even rules in your classroom. And here's a big one right here at the bottom. So what about rate of reinforcement for desired behaviors? What do you think about rates of reinforcement? So those positive praise statements, those stickers, those clickers on a tally counter, those class dojo points. Did Joshua come back yet? I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, I'm here. My Wi-Fi
I know.
messed me
I
up.
imagine, I don't even understand how, everybody's on Zoom, right? I can't even believe it's still working. I thought it was going to crash, but it's still working. Josh, do you, what is your rate of reinforcement using Class Dojo?
There are times of the day that I use it more than others. I know you kind of also have to see based on your students. Some kids do better with reading. Some kids like math more. So it's like you want to almost reinforce the things that they struggle more with or they don't like doing, because you want them to see it as a positive.
Right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And going back to one of the earlier slides about, if something is really hard, if the magnitude of the response, so if it's really hard for them, you definitely want to give them a magnitude reinforcer. So you might give them 2 Class Dojo points instead of just 1.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're matching. Knowing your students is really important. You're matching your rate or your magnitude of reinforcement paired with the magnitude of the response effort for your students in your class. And so here's a little assignment. So this one you can do between now and the next class. So it's a little baby assignment. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I know you guys are a little stressed right now because a lot of you are teaching remotely too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of you have children. So you have to be the teacher of your children at home. And so I don't want you to get too involved in this. I don't want you to turn it into something bigger than it actually is. So think about a problem here that you have encountered in the classroom, either in the role of a student, like when you were in high school or something, or in your current role as a teacher or teaching assistant in the classroom. And then just write down what that problem behavior was. And then I just want you to think about 3 proactive strategies. So what are 3 positive things that you could do that might result in improving that individual student behavior? So we talked about a bunch of things earlier, and through this PowerPoint. You might also refer to your textbook if you need other ideas, but we've come through a lot over the last, half hour or so. So if we want to go back and review a little bit, who wants to give us some ideas about what are the proactive strategies that we talked about during this about 30 minutes? Andrea, what's one?
Using positive reinforcement. Like I know with one of my students, we use like a now then chart for him. So he has issues keeping a quiet mouth during classroom time and keeping his hands and feet to himself. So in order to be proactive, every 45 minutes when the period changes, we have him reassess his board and we say, okay, now we're going to do math. If you achieve your 2 goals, you get to pick whatever you want. We let him pick if he wants Lego time, Play-Doh time. He has this it's kind of like a whiteboard that he likes to play with. So as a proactive measure, we let him know, look, we're watching. We want you to do this, achieve your goal, then you get the reward. And it's every 45 minutes.
Okay. So you're using a first then board. So he does this, then he gets that. So a contingency between, what you're expecting and then what he gets, right? Okay. So that's one. And I know, Josh, you were talking about yours. So what was that?
Reinforcers.
Yeah. And using
A class dojo.
and then that, so you have your class dojo, they get points, but the points, it's like a token system, right? So they get points
Yeah.
into access to a preferred activity or something.
Yep.
So class dojo and reinforcement system. And somebody did talk about token economy. And then we talked about like increasing your positive praise. So there's a whole bunch of things. So I just want you, and then also the last point is like, how are you going to track the student's progress? So let's say that the student is calling out all the time. Let's just use that as an example. Calling out behavior, which can be really, really, really annoying, right? Has anybody had a kid in class who calls out all the time and doesn't raise his hand?
Yes.
Yeah. Who is that? Yeah, Taryn. Okay. So what might you do for a student who's calling out all the time?
I know the particular kid that comes to mind for me.
Yeah.
It's more so he just yells like just random things or inappropriate things, and situations where I feel like he struggles in, like math, and he's just very distracted, and that's when he tends to do that. And I think it's, I don't know, almost to take the attention off of teaching. And
do you think it has something to do with a skill deficit in math then?
Yes and no, because certain areas he's pretty good in math, like especially when it comes to like we started money and counting money and things associated with money right before this whole thing happened, and he was very good at that.
Okay.
So I think certain areas he's more focused in and more motivated in other areas when he's just not into it, he just calls out way more.
So maybe you can, that's a perfect problem behavior though. So I think that that might be the problem behavior that you might want to think about, and you just defined it. So I just want you to go back and maybe think of 3 ways that you might be able to, 3 strategies you might implement with the expectation, hopefully, that you can reduce the occurrence of the problem behavior. And so explain how you will track the student's progress. So does anybody track any student problem behaviors currently, or is nobody doing that? I know Matt Mills does it, but does anybody else?
I have in the past.
Yeah, I track one of the students in my class.
And wait, so Harveen said yes, and Amanda. Okay, so what do you do, Amanda, for tracking problem behaviors in your classrooms? This should be a really easy assignment for you guys. What is it?
So like I have a chart that I have to fill out. Like one of the first column of the chart is just like the basic information, like the date, the time, where the behavior occurred. And then we have like another column, it's like what happened that caused the behavior to occur, like what initiated it, how I dealt with the thing, and then like how the student reacted, if they were compliant, non-compliant, if she eloped, like what her reaction to, then like how I dealt with it.
Okay. And so you could write down, so you have like a number of occurrences per day or whatever it is. So, so if you can think of 3 proactive strategies that you could implement and then what you expect. So you're tracking it using more like an ABC tracking chart, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And that's pretty commonly used, I think, in a lot of classrooms. And what about you? Who else said this? Saida, did you say, or was it Harveen who said that?
I said it, but I also used the ABC like the antecedent, behavior, and then the consequence, and like we've implemented things like adding a visual schedule, and then rewarding his behavior once he completes the schedule. So that kind of helped him stay on task. Sometimes to avoid work that he wouldn't like to do, he would hide under the tables or like throw chairs. But other than that, it really helped like track, like implementing the visual schedule really helped.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And maybe there are some other things that you might implement as well besides the visual schedule.
Yeah.
Right. So I want you to think of another couple of things over the things that we've talked about. So, does everybody have a good idea of what the expectation is?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think it's going to take that long. I don't want to stress you out with a lot of work, but I do want you to at least be moving in the direction. The textbook is super easy. I think it's like you could read it in 15 minutes. So it's
We're
not-
doing this and then the questions, right? That were posted yesterday.
The other questions,
Yeah, the ones that were posted yesterday.
but I'm going to give you time now to do those things. But I wanted to show you a funny video on YouTube. So let me close this. So these questions right here, I'm going to give you time now to work on the other stuff so you don't have to work on them over the week, okay? Because I know that you guys are all stressed out. Everybody's really stressed out. It's really horrible. I hope nobody's sick. That's good, right? Oh yeah, here. Okay, you have to go on YouTube. This is it. I don't know if anybody's seen this kid on YouTube, but I'm gonna go on here and okay, so to move this over here a little bit. There's too many things open on this desktop. And then we'll get back to the other stuff in a little bit. You guys are going to be laughing so hard. Everybody do the census? I don't know what's going on here.
It will help small business, not just barbershops, but all small businesses. The future.
Listen to me. Like I do this all the time. And if I go out at the house with the door, Matthew has his toys, and then Matthew has all his toys.
Okay, but I have to yell at you guys.
Okay, Linda, listen, Linda. Listen.
Okay, what?
Like everything they do at this house, you can't trust everything at Grandma's house.
Okay.
Okay, then what?
Then you're not listening to me.
Then you're not listening to me.
I asked you not to do something.
Linda, but listen to me. Look at, if we do something, if you get that birthday off, you're gonna break it.
Okay, but I'm letting you know that you cannot.
Linda, look it.
You're not listening to me.
Linda,
listen to me now. Listen to me now.
Listen to me.
No, you're not listening. I said no cupcakes. And you try to get cupcakes and you try to ask Grandma.
Linda,
Didn't you?
Linda, lick it. If If you get closer, you can't even get them. You can burn your butt.
What's gonna burn your butt? You and Kevin don't listen, so I have to give both of you guys papaws in your butt.
But Linda, but Papa's gonna give you papas in the butt.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
I have to. You don't want me to hit Kevin, or you don't want me to spank you?
No.
Why?
Because anybody wants to spank me.
Then I have to spank Kevin.
But he's my little papa.
He's your little pop-ups, but he doesn't listen.
But Linda, honey, look at this. Right now, they can't do anything if we can't get everything out of the wall. If we're gonna break everything down.
I'm not breaking anything down. I'm just letting you know you cannot have cupcakes for dinner.
Linda, like this thing, I never belong to you. Anything, you can't get anything and anything and anything.
I'm done arguing with you.
I'm not arguing with you.
You need to listen to the things that I say because I'm the mom and I'm the adult.
Listen to me. All the time to get them this thing,
I'm done arguing with you.
Linda, I'm done arguing with you.
Okay. Anyway, so what do you think about that kid?
He is hilarious.
That kid's gonna be one great lawyer one day, I think.
So funny. Okay, so what did the mom do wrong though?
She just kept engaging.
Right, exactly. So that's not a good thing. I don't know if she was doing it, but I think he does it all the time. There's more than one of those videos out there, but that kid is too funny. I mean, he is just funny. He's adorable. He's the cutest little munchkin. But anyway, yeah, that was him. Oh no, not that. That was the exam. I don't know. I went back and I checked all those things. So anyway, he was hysterical, but obviously that's not what you want to do. You don't want to do that because you could see how the more she engaged with him, the worse that problem behavior got. And so I don't know, have any of you seen teachers do that with kids?
Definitely.
Definitely, right, exactly. So it really doesn't work. It does not work. So I think that, we really need to be very conscientious about all that stuff. So let me get back to this thing. So I'm going to give you guys time now. We'll get started with this now. And then, let me just move this thing out of the way. Okay. And then here's the other one. Here's some case studies. So you don't have to do all 3 case studies. You just pick one of the case studies. So I posted these on Blackboard. Did anybody find them? Here's Chuck's story.
So I did.
You did? You found them? And here's Juanita and here's Fred. So there's 4 on here. And then there's one other one over here that is on here. Here is Alphonse's behavior problem. So I don't know if you guys want to take a few minutes and read some of these. Here's Alphonse. Poor Alphonse, he has his head down. So all I want you to do here is read one of the case studies. Just identify one. Just identify the student. If they give his name, if there's any classification, there may not be any. And identify and describe the interfering behaviors, and then see if you can come up with a couple of solutions to the problem behaviors. So why don't you guys take about 15 minutes to do that now, or 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll try to talk about a couple of them, and then we'll just end class. I know you guys are probably tired and sick of being cooped up and sick of all of this coronavirus talk and everything else.
So we're just doing the case studies right now, right?
One case study, you have to pick one. So just kind of breeze through them and see which one you might want to look at. And then there's a couple of questions. I just, again, it's an exercise in really trying to get, some of you don't have a lot of experience in managing behavior problems in classrooms. And unfortunately now we have to do it this way, because I was intending on having you actually do something in your own classrooms, but obviously that's not going to be an option right now. So I just found some case studies that you might be able to look at. So they should be on Blackboard, and I'll give you guys about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. Just let me know when you guys are ready. And then we'll have some people share what they've come up with, okay? So it's not homework. The only homework is that other thing. And reading your chapter. Okay, are you guys good? Do you understand what you have to do?
Yes. Yep, I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. How you guys doing?
I'm done.
You are?
I'm done as well.
I'm done also.
Okay, awesome. Andrea, who did you pick?
Well, I actually did all of them earlier. But I guess the one that I mean, I picked Alphonse first, and I
Okay.
think that one probably spoke to me the most because it didn't really end up with a classification. It was more of a home environment event that was impacting his studies in school. So the student was Alphonse in 10th grade. The interfering behaviors were inappropriate behaviors, oppositional and moody. And then after the teacher spoke to the student to find out what was going on and just try to open up a path of communication, he explained how he was the eldest of 5 siblings. His mother is the only caretaker and works at night. He's taking on the responsibility of feeding, bathing, and taking care of his 4 siblings and isn't getting much sleep. He's angry because he can't partake in typical teenage activities and wants to be on the basketball team. The solutions were that Miss Stewart created a friendly environment in which Alphonse could talk about his problems. The teacher then notified the social worker so that Alphonse could discuss his problems on a regular basis. And she found a weekend basketball league for him to join and contacted the coach personally so that she could ensure that Alphonse could play and the coach knew of the home situation that was going on and that was impacting him. And then she ensured that the following year she would follow up with his service providers to ensure that services continued into the next year and that he was receiving the support that he needed. And the result was that he exhibited less problematic behaviors and his grades began improving.
That's fabulous. See, isn't that great? So he was previously getting what it says, swift and immediate consequences, detention, in-school suspensions, failing grades, have given up hope, oppositional and moody, to having somebody who showed him that that they cared about him, right? He changed the situation. So in that case, obviously coercive strategies were not working and punishment was not working. So what worked was somebody being really kind to him and trying to figure out what was going on. It's really a sad situation too, to have to take care of all those kids. So that was a really great choice, Andrea. Anybody else who wants to volunteer one?
I can, Sarah.
Okay, Sarah, go ahead. I know.
So I did Fred's.
Okay.
And he was in 6th grade when the behaviors really started. So he didn't really have a classification, but he was in a car accident that when he was in kindergarten, so when he was 5, that led to the reduced use of his right arm and leg, difficulty speaking and learning. So whenever he was presented with a difficult task or a complex question, he would whine and stomp, or he would even run out of the room. And one time he even ran out of the building. So then his teachers, they formed a team, started a behavior management program. So Fred was provided an adapted curriculum for academic instruction. He received one-to-one tutoring and small group instruction in a integrated setting. So sometimes he was in the gen ed class, sometimes he was in a special ed class. He was also taught strategies to help him resolve difficult social situations, like interacting properly with his peers, telling his teachers when he's frustrated, and initiating self-imposed breaks rather than becoming violent.
Okay. So I guess that's in the section about self-monitoring, right?
Yeah.
Self-monitoring is a really great strategy. That's great. That was a really good summation. So did he have a success at the end of the day?
Yeah. So with those strategies, he was able to continue his progress academically, and his behavior also improved.
Okay.
So academics and his behaviors improved.
Right. And I think I see something in here about he had improvement in terms of social opportunities after all of, everything was put in place. So he had a lot more supportive situation. So in another way, though, at sometimes teachers might respond in a punitive way and just start dishing out punishment. So these are some really good examples of how important it is for you to track what's going on, find out what's going on for some of these kids. Some of these kids are really facing so much challenge in their homes and outside of the school that they may not be eating properly. I mean, there could be all kinds of things going on. There could be physical abuse, there could be sexual abuse, there could be all kinds of things. So it's really important as teachers to have that compassion and really try to look into the situations. Does anybody use self-monitoring strategies? I mean, we're going to get back to some of the other ones, but just getting a little bit off here, like talking about self-monitoring. Does anybody currently, or have you used, or have you ever seen another teacher use self-monitoring strategies in the classroom?
No.
Okay, does anybody know, like in this case, Fred learned how to interact properly with his peers. They don't tell us how he did that. Tell his teachers when he was frustrated, initiate self-imposed breaks. So those are self-monitoring strategies.
I mean, I'll like try to tell my students, like, for example, one of my students will speak very loud. So I'll try to like just say to him, listen to your volume, listen to my volume, try to make yourself aware of how loud you're speaking. Like sometimes it's just a matter of like they're so into whatever they're doing, they don't even realize it. So I kind of try to explain that. And then also like reading people's body language and like give examples of what someone might look like if you're too close or something of that nature. So I'll like do that with my students.
So, I mean, and one of the really important things about self-monitoring, and if we have time this semester before the end, I'll try to talk to you a little bit and do a little mini presentation about self-monitoring, but like, is students taking their own data. When I taught at Queens College, I taught an FBA class there, and one of the assignments was for students to develop a self-monitoring protocol for themselves, and they had to take data on themselves. And so some of the strategies that people had were increasing the number of times they went to the gym every week. One of my students used to text message while he was driving all the time, so I was reducing text messaging while driving. Weight loss, smoking less, saving money, like bringing lunch to school and saving money, and then using the money they saved after a couple of months to go buy an expensive pocketbook or something. So there are a lot of things that you can teach kids who have cognitive capability to self-monitor, and it's a really, really, really good strategy. And data, having them take their own data. Like when my daughter was 5, even though she was able to dress herself completely when she was just 2, when it was time for her to get ready to go to school, to go to kindergarten, I had to get ready to go to work, and she was able to dress herself, and all of a sudden she wasn't dressing herself. So I was throwing the hairbrush at her as she was getting on the school bus in the morning, so that was not a good strategy. So I put her on a self-monitoring system, and she had to take her own data. And if she got all 10 correct for getting ready in the morning, then I give her a sticker. And if she got 3 stickers in a row, I took her to the dollar store. So it doesn't have to be a big outcome. It was just, even the practice of self-monitoring is really helpful for students. So I would think about, using some self-monitoring by data collection for students taking their own data. And you might initially have to take data with them to make sure that they're recording it correctly. But over time, they do become really reliable data collectors. So it's really a great strategy. Who looked at a different case study here? How about you, Andrea? Andrea, you were talking before.
Yeah, I did all phones.
Amy, what about you? What did you do?
Me?
Yes.
Yes. Just I have the case of Junita.
Juanita? Okay.
Yes. She's the first grade, and then she leaves the parents and 5 siblings. She's normal. She's general education, but her teacher focused on her social interactions.
Okay.
Yeah, she's so shy and timid during the school days. So her teacher just refers to a new behavioral intervention program that is based on behavioral studies of young children. So the program suggests to her the social skill instructions and small group cooperation skills.
Okay, good.
At the end of the semester, the child gained the self-confidence as well. So no more social isolate.
Okay, well, that's great. That was a good choice. So a couple of things that she did at the end of this paragraph on cooperative learning groups, and they provided opportunities for her and the other students to do what?
Just the teacher suggests to observe and learn how to other peers behave in the different social situations.
Good, exactly. So using modeling and role playing are really fun things to do, even with older kids. Like, it's really funny. And what's really funny is, I mean, they just really enjoy it. Kids do. And a fun thing to do is also to have kids role play what not to do. So you want them to know what they're supposed to do. You also want them to know what they're not supposed to do. So, so that was a great choice. Thanks, Amy. Who did something? Did anybody do a different student?
I did Chuck.
Okay, go ahead. Tell me about Chuck.
Chuck is 9 to 10 years old. He started experiencing some problems at a very young age when he was in kindergarten. And it was basically not listening, throwing temper tantrums when he didn't get his way, not getting along with his fellow peers and classmates. He always tried to take over and be the leader. So his parents thought they could handle the problem on their own. And then he ended up getting placed in an IEP team that identified him as a student with behavior disorders. So a way to come up with a solution for that problem is they put him in a program called First Steps, which reinforced his appropriate behavior in a positive way by getting tokens. And whenever he would display negative behavior, he would get tokens taken away, and he would be able to cash in his tokens for prizes and rewards. And the behavior grew appropriately. And in third grade, he was at grade level, started getting along with his classmates, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's great. So of an effective early intervention program is really important for kids. He must have had some really severe problem behaviors in first grade to have been, just based on his behaviors, to have to go to this special program. But so they used a token economy, and then he would also lose tokens, right? So does anybody remember what we call that when he would lose something? Didn't he lose something? He lost tokens for misbehavior, right? Do you remember what that was in the PowerPoint?
So he actually isn't that reinforcing negative behavior, because you're not really supposed to take away for like misbehaviors?
No, you can. It's called response cost. You can take away.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do. I mean, in some schools like New York City, they don't let you take away anything, but no, it's actually very effective to lose your it's negative reinforcement, right? You're taking something away that the kid really wants. So
I mean, it's kind of cool because then towards the end he was able to take his tokens and earn a prize based on how many, I guess, tokens he had. So I guess that helps.
It definitely helps, right? So whenever you have a token economy, you have to really consider what the kids want. And there's ways of conducting preference assessments, and you can do observe what kids kind of gravitate toward, and then you make the access to those activities contingent, so connected to earning a certain number of tokens. And it's extremely important that that those considerations are made for kids. So what about anybody else do? I guess that's, let's see, we did Chuck, we did Alphonse, we did Juanita, we did Fred.
It's the very last one.
We did the last one. Anybody? Nobody? Nobody did Hui Lum. I don't know how to say your name, but okay. So who wants to try to attack the last one?
I have it if you want me to go again.
Who is that?
Andrea.
Go ahead. Oh yeah, you did them all, right?
So Hui Lam is 15 years old and has cerebral palsy. Her interfering behaviors was that she was late to most of her classes on most days each week. Arriving on time was especially challenging for her because her classes were on different floors of the school building, and sometimes she needed to go and stop at her school locker in between classes. And part of the interfering behavior was that she was using a wheelchair, and going from floor to floor was time consuming, and she had limited mobility in her hands, so using the locker was especially difficult. So her lateness to class wasn't necessarily out of defiance, but environmental factors. So the solutions were that her class schedule was adjusted to eliminate her having to change floors in between classes to give her more time. Her occupational therapist helped her improve and confidently use her independent mobility skills within her large high school building. She learned how to open and close doors with easier accessibility and maneuver her wheelchair to travel the school hallways. And she also focused on manipulating her lock and locker to be able to get books and other items from her locker with more ease. And her homeroom teacher, her other teachers, and her father provided positive reinforcement for her being on time.
Okay, great. So they obviously were taking data, right? Because they, at the end, they said that she met 90% of her behavioral goal of arriving to her classes on time. So obviously there was some way they were tracking it. So in one of the classes, I think next week I'll probably work with you on measuring behavior and just really like developing some kind of tracking system for, you know, making sure that you guys can track just a simple thing. So I just wanted to spend a little bit of time on the behavior system. I have another PowerPoint that I wanted to work on with you on classroom management. And then, so I know we talked about going over IEPs, right? So that's something else you guys want to work on. Is that correct? How many of you need to work on IEPs, or you guys are good on that?
I'm good.
Everybody's good? Everybody? Anybody have any question on IEPs or need to work on that? You can send me an email if you do. What about using visual schedules? Does anybody know how to use visual schedules in class?
Yeah, I use visual schedules actually for all my students.
Who is that?
This is Chris King.
Hi, Chris. Oh yeah, right. You have you have that tough group, right?
Yeah, basically every kid. Every kid, almost not every kid, but a lot of kids have their own individual schedule. My student, 1-to-1 in particular, has his own schedule. He needs it because basically what he does with it, he has a lot of anxiety, and he can literally go through the day. I have this next, then I have this, then I have this, then I go home, and he needs that with him at all times, kind of like to reduce his anxiety throughout the day.
Okay. So yeah, so that's great that you're using that schedule then. I was just gonna do one week on like activity schedules and just having people have a little bit of familiarity, and there might be some things that are a little different than how you're using it. So we'll just do, I think schedules and schedule following for kids in inclusion classes are extremely important. It's really unfortunate that you're not in school anymore. Very frustrating. So overall, how is everybody doing though? Okay.
Tired.
We were talking a little bit when we were waiting for some people to join the group, but you guys are getting some exercise, social distancing.
Yep.
Boring.
Tons of social distancing.
What would you say about social distancing?
I'm just getting a lot of it, so I'm trying to keep sane all of this because it's very challenging.
It's extremely challenging. I know it.
And it's so sad. All Starbucks locations are usually closed around here, so very sad. Yeah.
Oh wow, I thought that they were like you could go and pick it up.
I literally drove around like 3 different locations nearby, all closed.
Wow.
A lot of them are closing at 6 p.m. now.
No, some are like just shut like all day. Like they're not open at all.
What?
Yeah.
Starbucks is shut down for 2 weeks. All of them.
No, the drive-through ones are open, but like the one that's drive-through is like kind of far. So
So how many of you are who's working? Who's still working?
I'm working.
I'm working, but it's like I'm just doing professional development.
Chris?
I'm still working. Matt Mills. I still work in homes privately.
Oh, you're allowed to do that?
Yep.
Wow, that's because are they paying you privately?
No, it's through insurance, medical.
Oh, so they don't care, really? Because I have a couple of cases in the city, and the Department of Ed mandated that you can't go into anybody's home. So people are doing either FaceTime or Zooming with students and tutoring them that way, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I just got approved today for telehealth.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's great, Matt. Okay. Good. And is everybody though surviving like financially? Is everybody okay? Or what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
It's tough. It's up. And how many of you who's graduating in May? We're supposed to be having this craziness of virtual. I don't even know what a virtual graduation is. Who's graduating?
I am.
Turin? Okay. And I think Matt, you said you were graduating, right? Matt Mills, are you graduating? This stuff comes in and out. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about their, wait, one quick thing, because I don't know if we can even do this, because I think on the syllabus we had, where is it? I have too many things in here. Syllabus spring, okay. Okay, so one of them was that you were going to do your fieldwork assignment and do a review of not less than 2 full pages. Did everybody do their 10 hours of fieldwork? I know that they excused you from doing all the 10 hours, but do you think you can actually do this assignment anyway?
Yeah, I'm done with the paper and I'm done with my hours.
So can you, because I have to sign your paper that you're done with your hours, right? So if you're done with your hours, or even if you're not done with your hours and you have, 8 hours or 7 hours or something, you should scan your papers to me. I'll sign them, I'll scan them back to you. But if you have finished your fieldwork assignment, how many of you don't think you can write your fieldwork assignment because you didn't conduct enough hours? Like Saida, you did, right? Because didn't you go, who did, or Harveen, you went to.
I did, but it was like 2 hours, and then literally that same week, this all hit, and then I couldn't go back.
Right.
Yeah, so I was supposed to start, and then all this happened, so I don't even have any hours.
Okay. All right. So
I'm
then
in a similar spot where I didn't get a chance to do any hours.
Who is this?
This is Quinn.
Quinn. Okay. All right. So I know that you guys are excused from your fieldwork assignment, so I'm not going to have you do this assignment then. So I'll just, I'm just trying to be creative and come up with things that we can actually do in class that,
So do we not need to send you the paper if we did it? It's
Maybe
no
we-
longer a grade.
and I'll read it and I'll give you extra credit. How's that?
Okay.
Okay.
Are they gonna make us do this at some point?
I don't know what I'm going to do. I
You
have
need the hours for your certification.
Mhm.
For certification, you need to have the certain amount of hours and have proof that you've reflected on it, which is why we have the papers.
Gotcha. So if you've done your hours, you should send me your paper. I'll sign it and I'll scan it back to you. And send me your paper and keep your reflection. I know like there are people that are supposed to do their videotape of their ed TPAs and they haven't done it. It's just like, it's such a nightmare.
Yeah, what happens with people who are student teaching?
Isn't the proof that you signed it enough? Proof of the hours?
If you did your 10 hours, I'll sign it for you. Yeah, then you did
Right.
it. Then you don't have to make it up. But like some people are going to probably have to make up some hours in another class. So if you do 2 hours, keep track. God bless you.
Thank you.
Send it to me and I'll sign at least for the 2 hours, and then you'll only have to make up 10 hours someplace along the way.
Well, we don't necessarily know that. Actually, the state possibly could just waive the amount of hours for this semester.
Yeah, I'm trying to know what they're doing with student teaching. I've been trying to find out and I haven't had a response.
My friends are student teaching right now. They have enough hour. Like a lot of them are getting away with it now because you don't need a full semester. You only need
Like
8
40
weeks
hours.
apparently, so a lot of them are getting away with it.
Oh, really?
You only needed 7 weeks per content area. So if you're doing general ed or special ed, it's 7 weeks for each.
Okay, so some people just squeaked in and had enough. They had the 7 weeks.
Well, it depends. Like if you're doing like a dual like that, maybe you didn't have enough time. But I know there are people who were just doing one content area. Usually they make you do the whole semester. If you're doing like, great. If you're just doing like general education, you do the whole semester, but you only need 8 weeks to really be certified.
Okay, for special ed.
I was just talking about general education.
You only need 8 weeks?
For student teaching, what Matt was saying, you only need 8 weeks in the content area that you're doing. So if you're doing a dual in general education and special ed, you would do 8 weeks general education and then another 8 weeks or 7 weeks in special education.
Okay, for the semester. Yeah. So maybe people could do student teaching in the summer in a special ed setting.
Good luck.
Good. Okay. It's really awful. I don't know I still haven't heard back from anybody about how they're figuring all this stuff out. So I'm hoping to hear back at some point in time. So, so what about this project that we have to talk about this project? And I want you guys to like just keep handing in your assignments, but I'm gonna have to figure out some other little mini thing that you guys can do because you're supposed to be doing some of you did the field work. So the people who did the field work, I guess that they don't have to do another kind of assignment, but this is a kind of a big assignment, which I can help you guys to work on, and we'll talk about this not next class. Well, the next class we're going to have a guest speaker, but we should have a little bit of time after class toward the end of the class to finish up, what we're discussing about the assignment that you're doing for next week. But those are just little mini assignments. The week after that, we'll work on talking about this project, and then I'll give you some materials if you don't have access to student evaluations and IEPs. Okay? And then toward the end of the semester, you guys can present your analysis of identify and describe a student, description of the student, inclusion recommendations in terms of placement, accommodations, modifications, IEP goals related to measuring progress for inclusion, supports necessary for school personnel, any other recommendations, and then you would do it on a PowerPoint. So this is really about you using the strategies that we've talked about in terms of inclusion. And If you feel like you don't have enough information, I have articles that I can share with you. I can post on Blackboard, and you can refer to those articles as well. Okay, we'll talk about this again though. Is everybody okay with what the little mini assignment that you need to do for next week?
Can you just repeat that again? What is the assignment that we have for next week?
The assignment is on the over here, right
Those
here.
questions. Okay.
Chapters 1 and 2 in the Managing Classroom Behavior book.
Gotcha.
Why is it important to analyze background, blah, blah, blah. And Andrea was kind enough to share with us some of her responses already.
Yes.
So if you just look at chapters 1 and 2 in your Managing Classroom Behavior book, those 6 questions. So that's the only thing that's due for next week.
Good.
Okay. Alrighty, well, everybody have a good evening, what's left of it, and a good week. And if you have any questions, or if you need to have a little independent meeting, I'm supposed to communicate to you guys that if anybody's supposed to register for classes in the fall or summer, that you should go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Alrighty, take care. Have a good
Have a good night.
Bye.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Take
Bye.
care.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Hello.
Yes.
Hi. I just have a quick question. I have you next semester for EDS 625 on Thursday nights. Is it okay if I just have you sign the paper for me next semester, and I'll get the assignment to you? Because I did do my observation hours, but it would just be easier that way. Is that okay?
That's perfectly fine. Absolutely. No problem.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thanks. Bye-bye.